Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm recording this at the end of September, so I was going to acknowledge the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation to bring awareness to the Indigenous residential schools. Every Child Matters. For many of those who left to go to school and have never came home. Still a fairly new statutory holiday, so I want to acknowledge that before I get into the topic at hand for this video. But I'm also, with this being the end of September, we are actually almost into the regular season for the Calgary Flames for the 2024-25 season, and it's been meaning to make this video for a while, but let's just talk about the free agent frenzy that the Calgary Flames had, and feelings on all the signs and maybe even potential moves that the Flames will make this season, as they are rebuilding now, not retooling, despite what some say. But so before we get into the video, if you want to follow along this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and I have my other social links down in the description below. Didn't really do a free agent frenzy recap video last year because felt like didn't really sign too many players. I wasn't going to make a video on just Jordan Osterley being signed, and he is no longer in the organization, but we'll talk about the players that are also no longer in the organization. Not too sure where you could say the biggest signing the Calgary Flames made in the off season. You could probably say actually the biggest signing was one of their own, as we did sign forward Igor Sharangovich, player that we got from the Tyler Toffoli trade. He was entering into the final year of his contract, so he was able to be eligible for an extension. So we did sign him for 5 years at $28.75 million, or $5.75 million cap hit. That will start in 25-26, because he still has 1 more year left on his 2-year $6 million deal, or I think it was 6.2, I believe, that he signed when we got him last year and signed him. I'm going to say that is the biggest sign. We'll see if he can follow up last season. I felt he was someone that could be someone who could score you 25 goals and 50 points, and he did that last season. But I'm going to say the other big sign the Calgary Flames made is they signed forward Anthony Mantha to a 1-year deal worth $3.75 million. Most of his career he did play with the Detroit Red Wings, but he did split some time with Washington Capitals and the Vegas Golden Knights last season. He's a big body that doesn't really play big, but he could be another player that could score you 20-25 goals a season. And some are speculating that we signed him to hopefully maybe either to help out Jonathan Huberdeau, because he has some, past with Jonathan Huberdeau. They trained together in the off season, being they're both French-Canadian, but some are also speculating that we signed him to that deal, thinking that we're going to be so far out of the playoffs at the trade deadline that we can flip him some picks and prospects. But there is to be seen on Anthony Mantha. And then we brought back a former Calgary Flame who did his time in the organization in forward, and Ryan Lomberg, who signed to a 2-year deal worth $4 million, so $2 million a season. As you recall, we did sign him as a free agent, and he worked his way up from the Stockton Heat. Did play a few games with the Calgary Flames, and then eventually signed with the Florida Panthers, including winning the Stanley Cup with them last season. So it's nice to get Ryan Lomberg back for some fourth-line play depth, and the fact that he has a cup ring coming into the locker room. And then another signing that we made is defenseman Jake Bean. He actually is the son of now former, the CEO of the Calgary Sports Entertainment and John Bean. And actually Jake Bean did play for the Calgary Hitmen, and he's from here, so it's a homecoming for him. He was drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes originally, I think it was 2016, and he came from the Columbus Blue Jackets this past season. We signed him to a 2-year deal worth $3.5 million, or $1.75 million. There's definitely lots of openings on the defense this season. And then we signed goaltending depth and goaltender in Logan Cooley, signed into a 2-year deal worth $1.55 million, or $775, which is the league minimum. But it's a two-way deal, and some are thinking maybe he could be with the Wranglers or be that third goaltender. So far, what we've seen in training camp and preseason, I don't think our goaltending situation has really cleared up between Cooley, Dustin Wolf, and Dan Vidar, given no one has really stood out yet. But Logan Cooley so far has looked good. He did play with the lowly San Jose Sharks last season. He was able to manage to get 4 wins with the Sharks despite the team they had. So we'll see how many games Logan Cooley could play in Calgary, either if it's out the Flames or Wranglers. I know he's also there with Valtteri Ignatiu, another free agent signing that we signed from Finland, and then Connor Murphy. So those are the other goalies we have in the system that will be likely more with the Wranglers. But I could see Cooley spending some time here with the Flames and the Wranglers this season. And then we have some other depth signings, organizational depth signings. I think this player mostly will play more with the Wranglers. But we have defenseman Jonathan Asperot that we brought back. He played all with the Wranglers last season. It's a 1-year, $775,000 deal at the NHL level. Usually with some of these contracts are like at least guaranteed salary of maybe $100,000 to $300,000. But we have Jonathan Asperot in the organization. I'm going to anticipate he'll likely spend more time with the Wranglers than the Flames. And then we brought back, actually, he was with the Flames organization before and played a couple games with the Flames. And forward Justin Kirkland, he signed a similar 1-year deal, 2-way, or $775,000. I think more likely he'll probably spend more time with the Wranglers this upcoming season. And then we also signed forward in Martin Fyrk, F-Y-K is his last name. Also on a similar 1-year, $775,000 deal with the Calgary Flames. He has a hard shot. I think for Kirkland, I think he was with the Predators organization last season, if I'm not mistaken. And then Martin Fyrk, I think he last was with the Los Angeles Kings. And I think he also spent some time in the Red Wings system, but he could also be a depth forward. I'm probably going to say he'll likely spend more time with the Wranglers than the Flames. And then we did actually get Dustin Wolf signed. It was a 2-year deal worth $1.7 million or an $850,000 cap hit. The first season actually is a 2-way, then the second season is a 1-way deal. Consensus are thinking that he is likely going to be with the Flames all season. I mean, he did play 17 games with the Flames last season and got more games in, especially when Dan Vidar had been shut down for hip surgery, so he was playing time with Jacob Markstrom, which now we know Jacob Markstrom has been shipped off to Jersey. But I think Dustin Wolf will likely spend most of the time with the Flames because I don't think he has anything left to prove at the AHL level. I think he's too good for them now. But I think ideally not necessarily throw him to the Wolves, no pun intended. But hopefully Dan Vidar, he says he's feeling good. Better now. It may explain his struggles last season when he needed hip surgery, that Dan Vidar could get a lot of the share of the nets as well. And then, of course, Logan Cooley, he's looked good in preseason so far. So I know we have actually, when it comes to NHL games combined between Dan Vidar, Logan Cooley, and Dustin Wolf, I think we don't even have 100 NHL games combined, but the only way you can experience is actually play. But the future's still bright when it comes to Dustin Wolf. And then we signed forward in Adam Klapka, we signed him, I should say, to a one-year deal worth $775,000. He was a free agent signed a couple years ago that came over from the Czech Republic. He's that big, tall forward that spent more time with the Calgary Wranglers, and a couple seasons ago, there was a big part of the Wranglers team that got further into the playoffs. Adam Klapka, I think he is knocking on the door, or really knocking on the door of this height on being a fourth line extra, but I think you could see him being up and down between the Flames and Wranglers depending on waivers. But I think Adam Klapka could be that extra forward on the fourth line. And then we signed defenseman in Yan Kuznetsov on a 1 year, $775 cap hit deal, two-way. That's a player that we drafted. I believe it was back in 2020, I believe. That's the same year when we drafted Connor Zary. I think we have a lot of defensemen in the organization in depth, both fighting to play with the Flames as well with the Wranglers. I can maybe see him up and down with both teams this season. And then there's our big season in forward and Jacob Pelche, because he was later almost up till the start of training camp. He did sign a 1 year deal worth $800,000. I believe it's two-way. I think the big thing with Jacob Pelche, before we have to say is he a reclamation project for someone else, is if he can stay healthy. But he's, looked good when he's played with the Wranglers, but is he ready to take the next step with the Calgary Flames, the player that we drafted late in 2019 after we had that great season and won the Western Conference. And then we signed defenseman in Jared Tenorti, who originally was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens back in 2010. Well, we signed him to a 1 year deal worth $800,000 ahead of training camp. He actually has played more time in the AHL than he did in the NHL. But could we see Jared Tenorti play a few games with the Flames? I think he likely will spend more time with the Wranglers for organizational depth than with the Flames. Then we also signed defenseman Ilya Solovyov. Is he ready to be, a bottom pair defenseman with the Calgary Flames? As we signed him to a 2 year deal worth $775,000 cap hit at the NHL level, two-way deal. I mean, if we're looking at the defenseman right now, we got Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar. Those are top two. And then we got Daniil Miramanov as well as Jake Bean. And then we acquired Kevin Ball in the trade with New Jersey for Jacob Markstrom. And then you got, all these other defensemen, and Kuznetsov, Solovyov, Tenorti. And then we still got Braden Bahal and Joel Hamley. So, and as well as Hunter Brstevich knocking on the door. So it's going to be quite a big battle to see who will be the regular defenseman for the Flames this season. Also, you have Arden Grushkinov up and down the system as well. And then the couple more players that we did sign. Well, we did get for Cole Schwinn signed. He's a 1 year, $800,000 two-way deal. That's the player that we acquired in the Tkachuk Weegar trade. And you can say he's a depth forward. Likely, I'm going to still say maybe, might be up and down, but we'll probably spend more time with the Wranglers than the Flames. And then one more defenseman that I think might actually score a contract, has over 800 games of experience, in defenseman Tyson Barrie. We did sign to a professional tryout, and it looks like he's fit in, and some are thinking he might actually get a contract. So that's another defenseman that's going to put in a logjam with the defenseman. So I'm going to say, looking at all the players that we signed, we have lots of quantity when it comes to defensemen, but quality, we're not sure where we are after the top four. And then when it comes to forwards, I think we just brought in some, spare parts, maybe I should say, and depth players. We're still got, Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, and others that are with the Flames, and Andrei Kuzmenko, but could any of those players, could they still be with the Flames at trade deadline day, depending on where the team is at and what we get if we were to trade him. So now when it comes to players that left, well, Dennis Gilbert, the defenseman, he left to go to the Buffalo Sabres. He signed a one-year $825,000 deal. He was just a depth defenseman that could bring some muscle to the lineup. Well, we have lots of defensemen right now with the Flames, so it's a lateral move losing Dennis Gilbert. And then actually, player that we claimed on waivers last season, prior to the start of the year, from the Boston Bruins, and AJ Greer, well, he is leaving to the Florida Panthers as he signed a 2-year deal worth $1.7 million, $850,000 per season. I'm going to say maybe it's essentially we brought in Ryan Lomberg to replace AJ Greer for center depth on the fourth line. And the fact that Lomberg was familiar with the organization. AJ Greer unfortunately got hurt towards the end of the year. But I'm going to say essentially we got Ryan Lomberg to replace him. And then a depth forward that spent more time with the Calgary Wranglers. He actually, and Finn Jones, he signed a 2-year deal worth $1.55 million or $775 minimum. He is going to the Minnesota Wild. And then the defenseman Jordan Osterley, who we did sign, that was originally with the Detroit Red Wings. He was more depth defenseman that played more time with the Wranglers than the Flames. Well, he signed a 2-year deal worth $1.55 million or $775,000. He is going to the Boston Bruins. Well, we have a lot of former Bruins. Our Flames with the Bruins, Zadorov and Lindholm. And then we lost defenseman and Colton Poolman, but he was a free agent sign that we had and did play more time with the Heat and then the Wranglers. He signed a 1-year $775,000 deal with the Buffalo Sabres. And then surprisingly, we weren't able to come to a deal with defenseman in Oliver Shillington. He kept thinking he was still a top four defenseman and what he had to deal with, but eventually it wasn't until the beginning of August. But Oliver Shillington signed a 1-year deal worth $1.05 million with the Colorado Avalanche, and apparently there was word that we were offering him like 2 years for a little more, so not too sure about behind the scenes, or, I mean, Colorado, I say at this stage, looks to be more of a Stanley Cup contender than the Calgary Flames. And then one defenseman that we signed, surprisingly did not play with the Flames. He has over 200 games NHL experience, did play with the Wranglers, and defenseman Marks Pysyk. Well, as I know, he did sign a professional tryout with the Anaheim Ducks, so that's basically the Calgary Flames free agent frenzy I have as of the end of September going into the 2024-25 season. I mean, basically he was filling in spare parts with the other spare parts that we were to lose, that we lost. I don't think this team really got that much better in free agent frenzy, but I don't think we're in a position that we still have cap space. I think we have the third most cap space still in the NHL with Anaheim and then Columbus when it comes to, we're just over the floor now, believe it or not. We're not spending to the cap, but then there's always the speculation on, we are rebuilding. I think we're rebuilding, not retooling, with all the players that we traded out last season. And I think on the top of my head, the players that we have that are unrestricted free agents after this season is goaltender Dan Bedard, and then forwards Anthony Mantha that we signed, and Andrei Kuzmenko. And some are maybe speculating that they could potentially be expendable depending on where the team's at the trade deadline and what we can get for it, depending on how things shake down. I mean, do you think Calgary's going to keep those players, or do we think they're going to be gone, looking at Kuzmenko or Mantha? I mean, Mantha and Huberdeau trying to make some chemistry, considering that they know each other and they're both French-Canadian and they train together in the summer. I mean, I still say it's the worst contract in the NHL and we're still stuck with him. And then it's the following season that Rasmus Andersson is not an restricted free agent after the 25 season, or the 25-26 season. So, and there's been rumors about him possibly going even up to Edmonton. And some we keep hearing rumors about potentially on Mackenzie Weegar as well as Nazem Kadri and Blake Coleman. I mean, hopefully we can get first and some prospects. If we come down to that, if we need to trade away. But I mean, my realistic expectations for the Flames this year is I think we are better off trying to get a top 5 pick. I mean, we're done with this mushy middle and still making the playoffs or bowing out early. But I also do think, on the other hand, I could see this team maybe playing a little better given what happened, last month with Johnny Gaudreau. But the expectations are definitely a lot lower, and maybe that could help Jonathan Huberdeau. But it remains to be seen what is going to happen. I mean, there's also some feelings with this team similar to going into 2014-15 where we surprised everyone and made the playoffs and got to the second round. And as fun as that is, in the short term, I think long term, that might not be best for the team. So I'm very likely going to say there'll probably be some videos later in the season where I'll be talking about probably trading away, maybe Anthony Mantha, maybe Andrei Kuzmenko, or who knows, maybe there'll be a deal enticing enough to trade away potentially Nazem Kadri or Rasnaz or Kenzie Weegar. I mean, we already are still retained salary for the next 2 seasons on Jacob Markstrom, so we have 2 open spots with cap space, and I think maybe we could still maybe help a team out if it means getting some assets for a team that needs to dump salary too. So, but we did a little more in free agency this year, but it wasn't to spend money to make a statement, not like Nashville, for example, when they signed Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. I think a lot of the signings we made was basically to fill in the gaps with the inevitable pieces that we were going to lose, and just to keep the competition in camp. And got to look at building up the Wranglers too after all the graduations, especially with Connor Zary and Martin Pospisil and likely Dustin Wolf being here full time. So close it out to say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I have my other social media links down in the description below. So I want to say, go Flames go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.